Welcome to another incredible journey into the world of English. Learning a language is like unlocking a doorway to endless possibilities, and today we're diving deep into mastering one of the most beautiful and sometimes tricky parts of English: pronunciation. Whether you're a complete beginner or someone looking to fine-tune their skills, this video is packed with insights to help you speak with clarity, confidence, and fluency. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever thought you said something perfectly, only to see a confused look on the listener's face? Don't worry, you're not alone. English pronunciation has its quirks, but that's what makes learning it so exciting. With some practice and the right techniques, you'll be turning those head-scratching moments into smiles of understanding. And guess what? You're already on the right path. Just by being here, you're showing your commitment to growth. So grab your headphones, sit back, and let's break it all down step by step. Together, we'll uncover the sounds, rhythms, and secrets that make English such a dynamic and expressive language. By the end of this hour, you'll not only sharpen your skills, but also feel more confident jumping into English conversations. Let's make this journey fun, engaging, and most importantly, rewarding. Ready? Let's get started. Chapter 1. English pronunciation can seem tricky, but it's not impossible to learn. Today, we'll take a journey into the world of English sounds. Understanding how words are pronounced and how the sounds work together is an important step toward mastering the language. Many people find pronunciation challenging because English has so many sounds that don't exist in their native languages. But with patience, understanding, and practice, you can discover its rhythm and patterns. Let's begin by talking about the vowels. In English, vowels play a big role in forming words and giving them life. Vowel sounds can be short or long. For instance, the word bit contains a short vowel sound, while the word bite has a long one. Even though the spelling of these words is so similar, the slight difference in the sound of the vowel changes the whole meaning of the word. Try saying both words out loud, slowly. Feel how your tongue moves differently. Can you notice the change in where your voice feels lighter or stronger? That's the magic of vowel sounds. Now think about other words like cat, cot, and cut. Each word has a unique vowel sound, even though they all feel similar. The clarity of these sounds helps speakers understand what you mean. If these sounds are not clear, people may confuse one word for another. That's the power of pronunciation. It's not just about saying the word, but saying it clearly so others can understand you without confusion. Let's move on to consonants, the other basis of English pronunciation. Try saying the word dog. Notice how your tongue touches the roof of your mouth at the start. That's a consonant sound. Now say the word cat. Do you feel the difference? In cat, your tongue doesn't do the same movement at the start. Each sound in English has a technique, a place and manner in which it is produced. These small details of pronunciation might feel overwhelming at first, but with time, your ears will get used to them, and your tongue will start adapting to these movements. Repetition and slow practice are your best tools. Imagine learning the word think. Here, the th sound can feel very strange to learners. It's made by putting your tongue between your upper and lower teeth and letting air flow out. Many learners struggle with this sound because it doesn't exist in their languages. Instead, they may replace it with a T or S sound. This might confuse listeners. To improve, simply stand in front of a mirror and slowly repeat eth by practicing where the tongue needs to be. We also have the importance of stress in pronunciation. Stress means giving more emphasis to certain parts of a word or sentence. For example, in the words present and present, the meaning changes depending on stress. In one case, it means a gift, and in another, it means to show something. Stress brings a rhythm to English that makes the language sound musical. It's like the beat in a song. Without the right stress, your sentences might sound flat or unnatural to native speakers. Sentence stress takes it to the next level. When we speak, we don't stress every single word. Instead, some words are emphasized to carry the main message, while others are said more softly. For instance, in the sentence, "I want to go to the park," the main stress will likely fall on want, go, and park. The other words help the meaning but are not as loud or heavy. Understanding this can make your English sound more fluent because native speakers will quickly understand what's important in your sentences. Let's also touch on linking sounds. In casual speech, we often connect words instead of leaving clear breaks between them. Native speakers do this naturally, which makes their speech faster and smoother. For instance, in the statement, "What are you doing?" it often sounds like, "What you doing?" When you link words, your speaking can feel more natural, and it helps you keep up when listening to fast conversations. Sometimes English has silent letters, which can confuse learners. For example, in knock, the K at the start is not pronounced, while in island, the S is silent. Many patterns of silent letters come from the history of the language, not from logic. It requires practice and exposure to figure out when these silent letters appear. Reading aloud and listening to how others pronounce these words will gradually make these patterns clear to you. Pronunciation is not just about sounds. It also reflects how we breathe and control our voice. Take a word like apple. If you say it slowly, you'll notice a small breath or puff of air after you say the P sound. This is called aspiration. It is these little details that make native speakers sound natural. It might feel like an extra step for learners, but focusing on such elements adds clarity and richness to your speaking. Listen to English around you whenever possible. This is one of the best ways to sharpen your pronunciation. Notice how people form their words. Try to act like a detective. Carefully observe their lips, teeth, and tongue movements. It's like watching a dance of sounds and patterns. Then repeat what you hear, no matter if it's a single word or a short sentence. Repetition is key here. When you hear the same sound enough times and practice it, it starts feeling easy. People sometimes worry about having an accent. Remember, having an accent is not a bad thing. It shows your unique story and your background. Your main focus can be making yourself understood correctly. Your accent will always improve naturally over time without you even realizing it. English accepts different accents from all over the world, and that's the beauty of a global language. Never hesitate to speak because of your accent, because speaking brings practice, and practice brings growth. No one becomes an expert in pronunciation overnight. It's a gradual process. But every step you take brings you closer to feeling confident. When you talk to friends or colleagues, don't fear making mistakes. Native speakers don't expect perfection, just effort. They will appreciate your attempts and often help you improve. Each little correction is a gift to learn better. Keep a journal of problem areas you face in pronunciation. Write down words you find difficult and practice them daily. Set small goals for yourself. Maybe aim to improve 1 or 2 vowel sounds in the next week. Celebrate these small improvements, even if they feel tiny. Progress, no matter how small, is still progress. Finally, be patient with yourself. English pronunciation might feel like climbing a mountain, but every climb has a top. You might stumble, feel tired, or want to stop, but don't. Every time you try, you get closer to the peak, and when you look back, you'll see how far you've come. Even the best learners started with small steps, practicing daily and repeating sounds until they got better. You can do the same. Practice consistently and don't rush. Allow yourself to learn slowly but surely. Give yourself positive messages daily to stay motivated. You have the ability to master English sounds, and each day is an opportunity to get better. Let's keep going together. Chapter 2. To continue our journey into mastering English pronunciation, let's focus on how sounds work in combination and how you can build a deeper connection with the language. Every sound matters in pronunciation, but when you speak sentences or longer phrases, those individual sounds come together into a flow. This flow is key to sounding natural and clear when you use English. Let's start by talking about diphthongs. A diphthong is when 2 vowel sounds are joined together in the same syllable. Words like coin, train, or about contain diphthongs. When you say coin, your mouth glides from the O sound to the I sound. It's not done in a harsh or rigid way. It's more like a smooth balance between the 2 sounds. To learn diphthongs, begin by isolating the 2 sounds individually. First, say O, then I, slowly. After that, try blending them together without a pause. As you repeat this exercise, you'll notice how the sounds start to connect naturally. Let's also talk about the schwa sound. This is one of the most common sounds in English. It sounds like a weak or lazy and is often found in unstressed syllables. For example, in the word banana, the first and last A are pronounced as a schwa. So, it sounds more like bunana. This sound may seem small or unimportant, but it plays a big role in making your English sound more natural. Many learners tend to overpronounce these syllables when reading or speaking, but understanding where the schwa is used can help you achieve the relaxed rhythm of English. Practicing these unstressed syllables can make a big difference. Then there's the challenge of consonant clusters. These are groups of 2 or more consonants that appear together without a vowel between them. Take words like street, clap, or spring. In street, the S-star sound might feel tricky because your tongue and mouth have to adjust quickly between these consonants. At first, it might feel as if your mouth cannot keep up. The good news is that with proper practice, these clusters become easier. Slow down and break them apart. Say, sidtir, eat, very slowly. Then speed up your pace little by little as your tongue becomes more comfortable with the movements. Let's revisit stress again, but dive even deeper into how it works in phrases and sentences. In English, stressed words are like the important beats in a song. Think about how a native speaker says, "I didn't do it." It sounds natural because the stress falls on the word didn't. Now imagine stressing the wrong words. I didn't do it. It feels awkward, and the meaning may change. To practice stress and rhythm, try reading out loud. Focus on which words feel naturally heavier and which words feel lighter. Speak slowly first and exaggerate the stressed and unstressed words. With repetition, the natural sound of connected English sentences will start to feel easier. Did you know that speaking in English is often about reducing effort? In natural speech, native speakers often don't pronounce every word clearly or fully. Words contract, sounds link, and syllables are reduced. For example, going to often becomes gonna. Instead of saying, do you want to, you might hear, do you wanna? This might feel confusing at first because it doesn't match what you've learned in textbooks or formal grammar. But when you pay attention to these natural shortcuts in conversations, you'll start to feel more at home with the way English is spoken in everyday life. Think about the importance of intonation, which is about the rise and fall of your voice when you speak. Intonation can change the feeling or meaning of your sentence. Say, for example, you're going to the store. If your voice rises at the end, it becomes a question. You're going to the store. But if your voice falls at the end, it's just a statement. You're going to the store. This rise and fall of your voice helps express emotion, intention, or even curiosity. Practicing intonation will make your sentences feel more alive and engaging. Many learners also ask about the difference between voiced and voiceless sounds in English. Voiced sounds use your vocal cords and create a vibration in your throat. For example, place your hand gently on your throat and say the sound Z. You should feel a buzz. That's a voiced sound. Now say S in the same way. There's no vibration because S is voiceless. Words like zip and sip sound very similar except for this detail. Practicing with pairs like these can help you recognize and produce the correct sounds more easily. A common difficulty for many learners is mastering the R and L sounds. These sounds exist in many languages but often feel different in English. To practice the R sound, curl the tip of your tongue slightly without letting it touch the roof of your mouth. Now say red. Do you feel the air passing smoothly around your tongue? For the L sound, let the tip of your tongue touch the roof of your mouth gently, right behind your upper front teeth, as you say lamp. These small adjustments in your mouth position are key to making these sounds clear and accurate. Pay close attention to connected speech as you listen to native speakers. This is when sounds between words connect or change slightly depending on the flow of the sentence. For example, in the phrase want it, you might hear wanna, or in did you go? It might sound like did ya go. These changes can make spoken English sound faster, but they are very common and natural. Watching TV shows or movies in English can help you notice these patterns over time. Let me remind you again, you don't have to aim for perfect pronunciation right away. Step by step, sound by sound, you're building a foundation. Speak slowly and clearly at first. Speed will naturally develop as you gain confidence. The key is consistency. Record your own voice often and listen to how you sound. Compare it with native speakers or other learners who inspire you. This process allows you to notice small errors and improve them one by one. Never underestimate the power of listening. Whether it's podcasts, movies, or songs, listening to more English every day will train your ears. It might not feel like progress on some days, but you are getting used to the rhythms, stress, and pronunciation just by listening actively. Don't just listen passively. Repeat after the speaker. Mimic their tone, stress, and pace as closely as you can. Repetition solidifies the learning and helps shape your pronunciation naturally. One of the most important lessons is to stay patient with yourself. Pronunciation is not something you master quickly. It's a long journey, but it's a rewarding one. Every new sound or word you learn is a step forward. Think of it as planting seeds. With regular practice and effort, these seeds will grow into fluency. Celebrate every improvement, no matter how small it feels, because every little success moves you toward your goal. Keep speaking, keep listening, keep repeating. The only way to improve is by doing. Mistakes will come, and that's okay. Mistakes are just proof that you're trying, and trying is what leads to progress. You're not just learning English, you're mastering the art of communication. You're on this journey, and there's no better time than now to keep moving forward. Let's get better together. Chapter 3. I want to remind you that each step brings you closer to understanding the beauty and flow of the language. Let's keep building on what we've learned so far, bit by bit, sound by sound. Remember, this is not just about speaking English, it's about gaining clarity, confidence, and the ability to connect with others. Let's focus on some tricky sound pairs, ones that learners often mix up. One of the most common confusions is between the B and V sounds. In English, these sounds might feel similar at first, but with practice, you'll start to hear and produce the difference. Take the word bat. It begins with the B sound. Your lips come together before you release air. Now try the word vat. For the V sound, your top teeth lightly touch your bottom lip as you let the air flow out. Practice words like boat and vote, or berry and very. Repeat slowly, focusing on how your lips and teeth move until you can clearly produce the distinct sounds. Another challenging pair is the she and ch sounds. Many learners mix these two because they require similar lip movements. But the key difference lies in how the sounds are produced. Let's try the word shop. When making the she sound, you gently push air through your slightly rounded lips. There's no sharp stop, just a smooth, flowing sound. Now, say the word chop. The ch sound is quicker and starts with a small, sharp stop as your tongue touches the roof of your mouth before releasing the air. Try saying ship and chip slowly, back to back. These exercises will train your ears and tongue to respond correctly. Sometimes the th sound, which we touched on earlier, becomes even harder when it's voiced versus voiceless. Let's break it down. A word like think uses the voiceless theth sound. We don't use our vocal cords for that. Just let the air stream out between your tongue and teeth. Now try a word like this. The th is now voiced, meaning you engage your vocal cords as you produce the sound. Put your hand on your throat as you say this, and feel the vibration. Then try think, and notice how there's no buzzing. Switching between the two sounds in pairs, such as think and this, or thorn, and these, helps you practice this contrast effectively. Next, let's discuss word endings. English doesn't always make it easy when it comes to finishing words. Some learners forget to pronounce the final sounds of a word, and this can sometimes affect the clarity of your speech. For example, words like cats versus dogs. Notice how the endings are different. Cats ends with an S sound, while dogs ends with a zid sound. Practicing with lists of plural words like these will help you produce clear and consistent endings. Final sounds are especially important when using past tense verbs like worked and played. Listen for the T sound in worked and the D sound in played. These add precision to your speech. One aspect of pronunciation that many overlook is weak forms. In connected speech, some words are pronounced in a reduced or weaker way. For instance, in the sentence, "Can you help me?" the word you is often pronounced as ya, and can sound like kun. Weak forms help English flow naturally, and when you get used to hearing and using them, your own speaking becomes more fluid and natural. Start by listening closely to native speech. Practice saying sentences aloud while focusing on the weaker forms, and try to mimic the natural rhythm. Now let's pay more attention to syllable reductions. English, as we know, doesn't pronounce every letter or syllable clearly. Words like comfortable are often pronounced as comfortable. The middle syllable is reduced to make the word easier to say. Similarly, chocolate is usually pronounced as chocolate. These reductions are not lazy, they're just part of the rhythm of natural English. So don't worry if you're not saying every letter. Native speakers don't either. Listen carefully to how words are spoken in normal conversations and practice reducing the syllables where appropriate. When it comes to pronunciation, another key thing to master is clarity in question words. Words like what, where, when, why, and how are used so often in English conversation, yet learners sometimes find it hard to make them sound clear. Practice each word slowly. For where, feel your lips round to produce the W sound before moving into the air sound. For how, notice the low, soft start before the open ow sound. Make it a habit to say these words deliberately so they sound sharp and clear when used in real conversation. While we're here, let's talk a bit about pronunciation challenges related to accent differences. In some parts of the English-speaking world, words that sound one way in American English might sound different in British English or Australian English. For instance, the word water may be pronounced water in American English, but closer to watu in British English. Similarly, schedule may sound like schedule in the US, but schedule in the UK. Both pronunciations are correct, depending on the region. If your focus is on a particular accent, spend time listening to and mimicking speakers from that region. Learning pronunciation also means improving how you listen. Your ears are just as important as your tongue, lips, and teeth in this process. One way to train your ears is by shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence or phrase and repeating it immediately after the speaker, trying to match their rhythm and intonation as closely as possible. Choose short segments, just a sentence or two, and repeat. Don't worry about getting it perfect. The idea is to build the habit of speaking English the way it naturally sounds. It's also worth exploring minimal pairs. These are pairs of words that differ by only one sound, like pin and bin or seat and sit. Minimal pairs are great tools for sharpening your ability to distinguish subtle differences in pronunciation. But don't stop with just hearing the difference. Practice saying both words out loud. Slowly exaggerate the contrasting sounds at first, and then say them at a natural pace. Another powerful tip is practicing in phrases rather than single words. While breaking words down is important, it's equally important to practice them as they appear in everyday use. For example, instead of repeating good over and over, practice saying good morning or good to see you. This helps you focus on how sounds connect when words are spoken together in real-life conversations. Finally, let me remind you to trust the process. There will be days when English pronunciation feels simple and others when it feels hard. This is normal. Remember, even native speakers of English sometimes stumble over pronunciation. They are human, just like you. The important thing is to keep moving forward, even if the progress feels slow. You will improve with time, effort, and steady practice. Keep speaking with confidence. Keep listening with curiosity. And most importantly, keep believing in your ability to master English pronunciation. You are getting better with every word you speak and every sound you try. This journey is yours to own, and every small achievement brings you closer to success. Let's continue learning together. Chapter 4. The journey toward mastering English pronunciation continues, and it's truly exciting to see how every small effort brings more clarity and confidence. Let's keep building your skills, sound by sound, word by word, and sentence by sentence. Your commitment to improving is what makes all the difference, so remember, each step forward, no matter how small, is progress. Let's talk a bit more about the role of rhythm in English pronunciation. English is a stress-timed language, which means certain syllables are emphasized or held longer, while others are spoken more quickly and softly. This creates the natural rhythm of the language. For example, let's look at the sentence, I am going to the store. In natural speech, the important words, going and store, are stressed, while the others, I am, to, and the, are softened and spoken quicker. If you emphasize every word equally, it sounds unnatural. Now listen to this. I am going to the store. Do you hear how awkward it feels? But when you say it as, I'm going to the store, it flows. Practicing this rhythm will not only improve your pronunciation, but also make your speech sound more fluent and natural. Another key part of rhythm is contractions. Contractions happen when two words are combined into one shorter form, like I'm for I am, or there for they are. These are very common in spoken English and help maintain the rhythm of the language. For instance, instead of saying, you are going to be late, you might say, you're gonna be late. Pay attention to how native speakers use contractions. They almost always choose the shorter form in casual conversation. It's something to practice and get comfortable with, as it can make your English sound more relaxed and natural. Now let's revisit vowel sounds, but focus specifically on their placement. English has many vowel sounds that might seem confusing, but each has its own unique position in the mouth. Let's take 3 words: beat, bit, and bet. These words have different vowel sounds that require different tongue positions. For beat, your tongue is high in your mouth and forward. For bit, it's slightly lower but still forward. For bet, it lowers further. These distinctions might seem minor, but they're important for clarity and accuracy. Try practicing similar word groups like seat, sit, and set, or fool, full, and fall. Listening carefully to these differences and repeating them slowly will help you train your tongue and ears together. Now let's explore what happens when vowels are reduced in natural speech. The schwa sound, which we talked about earlier, is a key player here. In conversational English, many unstressed vowels are reduced to the schwa sound. Take the word photograph. If you pronounce it carefully, it sounds like photograph. The middle syllable t is a reduction of what would otherwise be a clearer toe sound if the word were stressed differently. These reductions are what give English its flowing, easy sound. To practice, read sentences slowly and exaggerate the unstressed syllables. Then try saying them faster and more naturally, allowing some vowels to reduce naturally to the schwa. Let's also get into tongue twisters, which are fantastic tools for improving pronunciation and building agility in your mouth and tongue movements. Tongue twisters are sentences or phrases full of similar sounds, and they challenge you to navigate between them quickly and accurately. For example, try saying, "She sells seashells by the seashore." At first, it may feel like your mouth is tripping over itself, but with practice, you'll notice an improvement in your clarity and muscle control. Other fun examples include, "Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers," or "How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?" Start slowly, and as you get more comfortable, increase your speed. Another area to work on is word linking. In English, when one word ends with a consonant sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound, the two often link together so they're pronounced as one unit. For instance, in the phrase "turn it off," it may sound more like turny-toff when spoken naturally. In pick it up, it blends into picky-tup. Native speakers link sounds naturally without thinking about it, but for learners, it's something that requires focused practice. Try finding common phrases or sentences where linking occurs, and practice saying them slowly at first, then faster as you get comfortable. Let's address final consonant sounds again, because they are often dropped or overlooked by learners. These final sounds are crucial for clarity. Think about words like big and bit. If you don't pronounce the final sound clearly, these words might sound the same, even though their meanings are very different. Start by exaggerating the ending sounds in words. Say bigga or bitta slowly to train yourself to finish the word properly. Over time, you'll be able to pronounce them naturally, without exaggeration. But right now, it's okay to emphasize them as you practice. Another thing to practice is making your speaking smooth while using common phrases. English has many fixed expressions and phrases that people don't really separate into individual words when speaking. For example, take, "What are you up to?" In natural speech, it often sounds like, "What you up to?" or even, "What you up to?" Practicing phrases as a whole instead of individual words helps you mimic real-life speaking patterns. Find simple everyday phrases that you might use frequently and repeat them as a single unit, focusing on their flow. One of the biggest secrets to improving your pronunciation is muscle memory. Your lips, tongue, and jaw all have to learn the movements that English sounds require. When you are learning new sounds, especially ones not present in your native language, your mouth might feel strange or uncomfortable. That's normal. Over time, with repetition, these movements will feel natural. Just like when you learn how to write with a pen as a child, your hand feels awkward at first, but over time it becomes second nature. The same is true for pronunciation. So repeat, repeat, repeat. Even if it feels tiring, every repetition is building new habits. I'd also recommend working on your intonation patterns again. Intonation isn't just about rising and falling tones. It's about expressing emotions, attitude, and clarity. If you say, "I didn't mean to do it," you can express sadness or apology depending on your intonation. But if you say, "I didn't mean to do it," with a higher tone near the end, you might sound defensive instead. Practice saying neutral sentences, but change your intonation to express different emotions: curiosity, excitement, disappointment, and surprise. This will add depth to your speech and help you sound more engaging and natural. Listening is still one of your most powerful tools. Spend time each day listening to native speakers, whether it's an audiobook, podcast, or interviews in English. Pay attention not just to the words, but how they sound, their stress, rhythm, and intonation. If listening feels overwhelming at normal speed, slow down audio files using apps or video players with speed controls. Many learners find that slowing down the speech allows them to notice details they wouldn't catch at normal speed. Once you feel more confident, return to normal speed and try to mimic what you hear. Above all, remember that there is no single correct English accent or pronunciation. Whether you're focusing on American English, British English, or another variation, what matters most is clarity and confidence. Accents show your journey and background, and they're a part of who you are. The goal is not to sound exactly like a native speaker. The goal is to be understood and to communicate effectively. Even native speakers from different regions sound different from each other. Stay patient and kind with yourself. Every sound you practice, every word you repeat, and every mistake you correct is a step forward. You're not just learning English, you're learning how to express yourself, connect with others, and build new possibilities. Keep speaking. Keep dreaming. You are improving every day, and I'm proud of the progress you're making. Let's continue together on this journey. Chapter 5. We've come so far in exploring the art of English pronunciation, and I'm so excited to continue this journey with you. Remember, every day you dedicate to practicing, even for a few minutes, brings you closer to mastery. So today, let's dive even deeper into pronunciation techniques, challenges, and strategies to help you confidently express yourself in English. Along this path, I'm here to guide and encourage you. Let's start by talking about voiced and voiceless consonants again, but let's practice them in the context of words and sentences. Voiced consonants, as you know, involve vibration in your vocal cords, like the letters B, D, G, and Z. Voiceless consonants, on the other hand, don't use the vocal cords and only rely on air, like P, T, K, and S. Let's try some pairs like bat and pat, or dock and dog. Practice them slowly. With the voiced ones, like dog, you'll feel a vibration when you say the D. Put your fingers lightly on your throat as you say it to check for the buzz. For the voiceless one, like dock, there's no vibration, just air passing through. Practice switching between these pairs: bit and pit, zip and sip, bag and back. Repetition is key to mastering these subtle differences. If you struggle, slow things down and focus on just one sound at a time, then try saying the full word. Let's also talk about aspirated sounds, which can feel tricky for many learners. In English, some consonants like P, T, and K are aspirated. meaning a small puff of air is released when you say them, especially at the start of a word. For example, in the word pack, the P has a burst of air. Hold your hand close to your mouth as you say it, and you should feel a gentle puff. Compare this to the unaspirated P in languages like Spanish, where the P sound in a word like papa doesn't have that extra air. Practicing this puff of air is essential for sounding natural in English. Try words like top, pot, and cat. Now let's revisit vowel length because English sometimes uses vowel length to distinguish words. For example, the words beat and bit differ not just in vowel sound, but in length, too. The vowel in beat is held slightly longer, while the one in bit is shorter. Let's think of another example. Bad versus bat. The vowel in bad is longer, while the one in bat is shorter. Practice pairs like these slowly. Seat versus sit, or fool versus full. Exaggerate the difference at first, making the long vowels extra long and the short ones extra short. Gradually bring it back to a more natural rhythm. Next, one issue learners often encounter is mastering the R in various accents of English. Depending on whether you're focusing on American English or British English, the R can sound very different. In American English, the R sound is strong and pronounced in most words, like in car or far. Notice how your tongue doesn't touch the roof of your mouth. It curls slightly upward and backward in this sound. Practice holding a soft R by saying words like run, red, and road. In British English, however, the R is often softer and less pronounced, particularly at the end of words. For example, car might sound more like ka. The tongue doesn't curl up as it does in the American R. Practice hearing and mimicking the difference between accents. Words like better, door, and teacher can provide excellent examples. Listen to speakers from both accents and try to copy their style. If you prefer one, practice that one more. Now let's turn our attention to syllable stress again, but this time, let's look at compound words. A compound word is a word made by combining two words like airport, blackboard, or lighthouse. In compound nouns, the stress typically falls on the first part of the word. For example, in airport, the stress is on air, not port. In blackboard, the stress is on black, not board. Practice saying these slowly at first, emphasizing the first part of each compound word. Then say them naturally while maintaining the correct stress. Understanding syllable stress isn't just about individual words. It extends to multi-word expressions and phrasal verbs. For example, in a phrase like pick up, the stress usually falls on the second word, up. But if you're using it as a noun, like pickup truck, the stress is on the first part, pick. These small changes in stress can change the meaning of your sentence, so it's important to become familiar with them. Practice saying phrases like turn off, run out, or take over. Focus on which word is emphasized based on the context. Now let's talk more about linking and connected speech. English has a unique way of blending certain words together when spoken, which gives it a smooth and flowing quality. Try saying the phrase not at all. When spoken quickly, it often sounds like not at all. The words link and change slightly to make it easier for the speaker. Another example is want to, which often becomes wanna, or got to, which becomes gotta. Practice saying full sentences and listen for where words tend to link. For example, I have to go might sound like I have to go. Mimicking these patterns will help your English sound more fluent and natural. Let's dive into different types of English accents again, especially between American and British English. Many vowels and even some consonants change depending on the accent. For instance, the word water in American English is pronounced water with a clear T sound. In British English, it might sound like wouta with a softer T or even closer to a T that becomes less sharp. The word ask might sound like ask in American English, but closer to ask in British English. If you find one accent easier to practice, start there. But don't be afraid to explore both. It will sharpen your listening skills. Now let's focus a bit on improving pronunciation through mimicry and repetition. One of the most effective ways to improve is by imitating native speakers. Find short clips of interviews, conversations, or even TV shows. Pause after each sentence and mimic what the speaker says. Pay close attention to their rhythm, tone, and intonation. Don't worry about understanding every single word at first. This exercise is about training your mouth and ears to work together. Start with short sentences, and as you improve, challenge yourself with longer ones. If you're feeling stuck and your pronunciation doesn't seem to be improving as quickly as you'd like, remind yourself that this is a process. Improving pronunciation is like learning to play an instrument or ride a bike. It takes time, patience, and consistent practice. Some days it may feel like you're not making progress, but every word you say, every sound you practice, brings you closer to fluency. Lastly, don't forget to enjoy the process. Take pride in every milestone, no matter how small. Celebrate when you notice that you've mastered a difficult sound or when someone understands you with ease. These moments are proof that your hard work is paying off. And if you ever feel discouraged, remember why you started. Mastering English pronunciation opens the door to so many opportunities. New friendships, new jobs, and connections with people all over the world. Chapter 6. Let's keep moving forward on this rewarding journey of mastering English pronunciation. You're already taking the most important step, actively practicing and challenging yourself to improve. Progress is built one sound, one word, one conversation at a time. Keep that motivation alive, because every effort you put in is setting you up for success. Let's begin by exploring word stress that changes meaning in certain English words. There are several English words where the stress determines whether you're using the word as a noun or a verb. For example, take the word record. When the stress is on the first syllable, record, it's a noun like in I bought a record. But when the stress is on the second syllable, record, it becomes a verb like in I will record the video. Another commonly used example is present. When you say present with the stress on the first syllable, it means a gift. But when you say present, it means to show or give something. Practice pairs like these slowly. Record, record, present, present, contest, contest, and permit, per MIT. Repeat them in sentences to hear how the stress changes the meaning. Now let's focus more on sentence stress and how it creates meaning within longer sentences. In any sentence, some words are naturally more important than others, and these words are stressed. These tend to be content words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, while function words like prepositions and articles are spoken more softly. Let's take the sentence, "She wants to buy a new car." The main stress falls on wants, buy, new, and car. The other words, she, to, and a, are less emphasized. If you stress every word equally, it sounds forced and unnatural. However, by stressing the key content words, your sentences flow smoothly and are easier for listeners to understand. Practice identifying the key words in simple sentences and experiment with stressing them differently. You'll start to sense how native speakers focus on important information. Let's dive deeper into intonation, which adds emotion and life to your sentences. English intonation has a natural rise and fall. For instance, when asking a yes or no question, the pitch at the end of the sentence often rises. Say, "Are you coming?" and let your voice go up at the end. On the other hand, WH questions like, "What are you doing?" usually have a falling intonation, with your voice dipping on the last word. Practice these types of sentences until they feel natural. You might also notice that when someone is very excited or surprised, their pitch rises more sharply, like in "really," "wow." Mimicking these patterns will make your spoken English feel more expressive and engaging. Another trick to mastering English pronunciation is working on flap T sounds, especially if you're focusing on American English. The flap T occurs when the T sound in the middle of a word sounds more like a quick D. For example, the word butter is often pronounced as butter in American accents. Similarly, water might sound more like water. This doesn't mean the T disappears. It's just softened into a sound that's less sharp. You'll hear it in words like better, city, later, and party. Listen for it in conversations or movies, then practice saying these words both slowly and at a faster, more natural pace. The flap T is part of what gives American English its smooth, connected feel. Next, let's focus on reducing sounds in connected speech. English speakers often reduce or contract words when they speak quickly, and this makes the language sound more fluid. For example, going to becomes gonna, and want to becomes wanna. Similarly, would have often becomes would've, and even further reduced to wa-ve. These reductions happen naturally because they save time and effort during casual conversations. Try practicing sentences like, "I'm gonna go to the store," or "She would have called me if she could." Work on blending the words together without pausing too much. Being able to recognize and use these reductions will make your listening comprehension and speaking more natural. A challenge many learners face is pronouncing consonant clusters, groups of two or more consonants without a vowel in between. Words like strength, crisps, and clothes can feel like a workout for your tongue. It's tempting to drop one of the sounds, but practicing these clusters slowly will help you articulate them over time. Break the word into smaller parts. For example, say streng first, then add the "th" at the end to make strength. Similarly, with crisps, practice saying crisp first, then add the soft S at the end. Start slow, then increase your speed as you gain confidence. Let's also talk about shadowing, a fantastic exercise that helps refine every aspect of pronunciation. Find a short video clip or audio recording of a native speaker talking clearly and naturally. Play a short sentence or two and pause. Repeat exactly what you hear. Try to copy the tone, intonation, speed, and rhythm. Don't worry if you can't get it perfect at first. The goal is to mimic as closely as possible. If you do this daily for even 5 or 10 minutes, you'll train your ears to pick up on subtle pronunciation details, and your mouth will automatically start forming the sounds correctly. Over time, you'll find it easier to sound more natural yourself. Let's not forget about pronunciation consistency. Depending on your native language, some English sounds might be particularly difficult to produce. For example, in some languages, the distinctions between L and R sounds or V and W might not exist. To practice L and R, try alternating between words like light and right. With V and W, practice words like vine and wine. These pairs might feel tricky at first, but focusing on mouth position and repeating them will help train your muscles to produce the right sounds. Be patient with yourself. It's normal to take time perfecting sounds that aren't in your original language. Learning pronunciation also means understanding how to work with weak forms. Weak forms occur when small, unstressed words like prepositions or auxiliary verbs are pronounced less distinctly in a sentence. For example, the word can in I can do it is usually reduced to something closer to kun, where it sounds softer and shorter. Similarly, of in a cup of coffee may sound more like you ha. These reductions are part of what gives English its natural rhythm. Practice sentences like, he can do it, or she's part of the group, with a focus on making the unstressed words lighter and quicker. Finally, don't forget how important listening is. The more you listen, the better you'll understand the rhythm, stress patterns, and nuances of English. Watch English movies or TV shows, listen to podcasts, or immerse yourself in videos that feature native speakers. Whenever you hear a word or phrase that's unclear, repeat it out loud. Imitate it as closely as you can. Listening actively doesn't just improve your comprehension, it strengthens your ability to produce sounds the way they're naturally spoken. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you of something crucial. It's okay to have an accent. Accents show where you come from and are a part of your identity. What's most important is being clear, not sounding like a native speaker. If people can understand you, you've succeeded. Pronunciation is something you can always refine and improve over time, but don't let the fear of mistakes stop you from speaking. Mistakes are how we learn. Celebrate the progress you've made so far. Think back to where you started and all the sounds you've practiced, the challenges you've overcome, and the confidence you've built. Every time you speak, every time you try, even if it's not perfect, you're getting better. Be kind to yourself, stay consistent, and keep moving forward. This is your journey and no one else's. You've got this. Let's continue building together, step by step, sound by sound, layer by layer. The more you practice, the more natural and effortless English pronunciation will become. Keep going, and before you know it, you'll be amazed at how much you've accomplished. Keep striving and speaking with confidence.